What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. I wanted to discuss today my deck for DLC Milwaukee. If you didn't know, I performed way better than expected at DLC Milwaukee, finishing 176th out of about 2,200 players, securing a day two placement, and overall just having a great time, finishing with a record of 8-4. I think my last two games I was tired and I played a little poorly. Also going into some high level players and some not great matchups. It was unfortunate, but I had an amazing run and an amazing time. So shout out to everyone that was there that supported me. Shout out to all my friends in the community. Shout out to everyone that was cheering me on. You guys are the great. Congratulations to all those that finished great and had a fun time in general. If you had a good time, then that's all that really matters, right? So thank you to everyone, though. If you know me, you know me personally. I appreciate everything that happened at that event. I appreciate all the support at that event. Shout out to all the people in my local community and for the support and the love. And shout out to the people in my local community who also secured day two. But I wanted to discuss my choice for the deck list, why I chose this deck list and why I think it worked, and then I also want to maybe discuss my matchups and how I think this deck moves forward going into the next set. First and foremost, I want to go over the deck. Obviously, this is a Tiana build, no Chromacon. And that was largely due to my testing. I went with a buddy of mine playing Purple Steel, and in like about 150 matches over 2 or 3 days before the event, I found that I just lost that matchup. There was just nothing I could do to win with the Chromacon build. So I opted on probably the Friday before the event to try out the Tiana build. I added in 4 Auroras and 4 Tianas and tinkered with a couple of other things and said, we'll give this a go and see how it goes. And I found that matchup got significantly better while not sacrificing the blue-purple matchup. I mean, the blue-purple matchup was already good, but you don't want to sacrifice that matchup because I knew I was going to walk into a field of largely blue-purple and purple-steel. So I wanted to make sure that I could secure those two games and not have to worry about losing out to either one of those decks, as they would be the most represented deck in the tournament. So we opted for that, and I found that Chromacon is just too easy to play around, especially against high level players. They will figure out the order in which they need to do things in order to succeed, and if they figure that order out, then you just kind of lose from there, right? So I found that Tiana is a little bit harder to play around. If you can get the Tiana down on 2 or on 3 and build from there, then it's just so hard for your opponent to come back from, especially if you get down a bodyguard or anything like that. So I opted for this specific build, and I'll discuss after I go through my matchups any changes I think that I would make. But in general, I really liked this build. I think that it was a strong build. A lot of the dogs decks that I saw throughout the day were on the Chromacon variant, which I think is great, and I think is maybe a smart decision, but I just found myself a lot more confident with Tiana, and it caught a lot of people off guard. And once Tiana came down, my opponents kind of had to do a lot to win the game from there. So I enjoyed the build overall. It led me to a very good finish and a very strong finish. But going into my matchups of the day, let me pull them up. So round one, I faced blue purple, and I was on the draw, and I won 2-1. Going into a blurple matchup, a lot of the time you don't need Tiana and you don't need Chromacon. Obviously, I don't play Chromacon, but you don't need this 3-drop kind of control aspect. You just need to go fast and win the game quickly. But I found that in game one, when I was on the draw, I hit Triple Daisy into Tiana and then Jim Deere. And from there, it's like super hard for your opponent to do anything. I think I even on 4 played Jim Deere and Ursula and ripped into the unknown because I think he was holding it so he could sing it. And from there, it's just super hard for your opponent to get any footing in the game. They have to pay 3 just to hit Jim Deere, and they don't have super high strength characters. I didn't see an elephant round one, which is definitely in my favor, but I was able to just get a heavy attack going and win the game from there. Round two, I found it getting to the point where they had 7, 8, 9 ink, and I just knew that like the game was probably over. I could have kept going and maybe gotten to 20 squeaked across the line, but I just found it like if I keep this game going, I'm just gonna get, I don't want to say irritated, but I'm just gonna get beat in the long run. So we quickly moved to game three, where I just got in a super aggressive start to the game. It was my first game on the play, and I knew that my opponent could just not keep up with what I was gonna put on the field from then on. So that was a pretty simplified round. Moving into round two, I actually got 0-2'd in the mirror, which was unfortunate. Probably the one loss in the whole tournament. I think that it was a bit undeserved. Both games I knew what I had to do. In the mirror, you really just need to find under the sea. And once you find under the sea, the game's over. I think I maybe turned sideways too early at some points, but I know that in game one I filtered through all four big trumps, drew about 35 cards of my deck, and didn't find it under the sea. And my opponent just did find his under the sea, so it was unfortunate from that. And then moving into the second game, I sniped 8 under the sea from my opponent on turn 2 into big trump, didn't find my under the seas, and he played big trump and filtered, didn't find his under the sea, and then top decked his under the sea. So I think round 2 was a bit unjust. Shout out to my opponent. I'm not throwing any shade again, but I think it was a bit unjust. I could have definitely won that game in the long run. I just think my deck was a bit unfortunate. Moving into round 3, I had 2-1 purple blue again. Pretty straightforward matchup for us. We aggro out and win the game. I didn't see a Tiana at all in this round. I just purely went the aggro line and was able to win the game pretty confidently. Moving into round 4, which was probably my first statement victory where I thought I could keep going, was a 2-0 versus Purple Steel. I played that matchup over 150 times the 2 days leading into that tournament. So I think that helped me a lot in knowing what I needed to do. I obviously went into the first game blind on the play, but I was able to go Aurora. They had no cannons, go into Tiana, and then on he still didn't take out my Aurora on turn 2 that game. I was able to quest with Aurora again and put down another Tiana and a Daisy, and then going into turn 4, I played double Jim Deere to help me really solidify that matchup. It was pretty much over from there, and then in round 2, I just found a very aggressive line. I think I played 3 big trumps and just squeaked through the game without them really getting any foothold or any aggressive line within that game. So that was a good statement victory for me. Moving into round 5 was moving into round 5 was a blue steel. There was a big team running blue steel, and that I feel is our best matchup. That matchup for us is so good. It is unreal. I never felt any form of worry in that matchup at all. You hit an aggressive line early. You can get down a T on it late in that game, and you will still just get across the line before they can really do anything. I think he double or triple ramped trying to get Tink down, but by the time Tink's down, the game's over. And I think game 2, I was at 19 when he cleared my board, and I Robin Hood for the game. So that was a very good matchup for us, and I think that if you do see a lot more blue steel, obviously the season's over, but in this current format, blue steel's worst matchup is green yellow, and I think that it's pretty much a instant victory for us. Both the people that I played in the tournament on blue steel were very high level players. Shout out to you guys know who you are. But it is just such a polarizing matchup for us that I think that it's just an auto win. Moving into round 6, I was able to 2-0 Amber Steel. That is obviously another very good matchup for us. You get down a lot of bodies early. They get the front game tempo. Yes, I was on the play in this, but if they put a Daisy down, they are just giving you cards in hand. And my opponent knew that, so holded the quest on his Daisy a little too long, and by then my Under the Sea was already online. Activating it with singers like, Ursula. I had Ursula down, I had Tiana down, and then I shifted Lady, and then I just sung Under the Sea, board wiped, and then I just went wide into a pretty comfortable win both games. They could not stop the Under the Sea, and I just from there was very, very in comfortable position to win the matchup. Moving into round 7, I did lose to Purple Steel. Shout out to my opponent. He was a quality player. Skater Mim came down, and once Skater Mim's down, it's very hard for us to come back from, as it gives all of their characters the ability to kill a Tiana usually. So it was a very tough matchup for me. We did get deck checked halfway through, but I did know that I was probably down and out. Game 3, I think I could have won, but I mulled incorrectly into a pretty poor hand, and from there was just very, very out of the game. But shout out to my opponent, really good guy, really good player. So if you were my round 7 opponent, you know who you are. Kudos to you, congratulations on your run, it was great. And then moving into my winning in, I needed to win to make this matchup, to make day 2, and I played Blurple again. I was on the play and I lost game 1. So at that point I was very unsure. My opponent played the Honor that freezes one of your exerted characters while also having support, and it just decimated my board. It was a very good play on my opponent's part. It just decimated my board. And then moving into game 2, I think my opponent got stuck on 5 ink, having 2 Hades, and I want to say 2 Big Elsa in hand, just giving me the opportunity to quest out every time. And then I knew that game 3 I needed to mull for a hand that would give me some control, but also give me some aggression. So I mulled into a hand that had 2 Daisies, a Tiana, and 2 Gym Deer, and then a couple of Inkables. And I was able to play the Daisies, play the Tiana on 3, play a Tiana on 4, and then quest out the following turn after playing 2 Gym Deers. And at that point, my opponent just had so much trouble taking care of what I had on board, that it was very powerful. I also noticed that in that matchup, I don't think I saw a lot of Into the Unknowns, so I guessed that my opponent wasn't on a lot of them, and I think it paid off in the end, as he was only on 2. He didn't see him, and I was able just to quest out for the win. So that qualified me for day 2, which was an accomplishment in itself. I did not expect to make it that far. So I was very joyous that I made it as far as I did. And then moving into day 2, I started off the day against Blue Steel again. Was able to just hit the same lines of pure aggression. Pure aggression into Tiana, and their one play line is to ramp into Tink and hope that they can do something. But when Tiana comes down, or even double Tiana, it's very hard for them to get any value off Tinkerbell. And even then, the value they gain from Tinkerbell is not good. So I think that was a very straightforward matchup for me. Moving into my next round on day 2, we obviously played 4 rounds. I 2-1 Purple Steel. And I wanted to talk about this matchup specifically because I took the same lines I usually always do. Purple Steel is a matchup where Fred is very good because they need cannons or strength to take care of him. So I was able to go Aurora, Tiana, and then I think I played like 3 Freds. And from there I was able to get the footing in the game of laying down some Gym Dares. Every time he took out a Gym Dare, I had another one in hand. Able to refresh the bodyguard and refresh, everything, protect the Tianas. I think I played Ursula as well to remove one of his strengths after seeing one with Daisy, and just really get the footing of the game under myself. And then I wanted to talk about my game 2 here. I did 2-1 this opponent, but this is where I think counting and taking things into account is very crucial, because I could have had a 2-0 under my belt and I had a 2-1. I got to 18 and my opponent had like the Elsas, had the Hades, had everything that they needed to have. While they were doing this, they had a couple of characters on board that had 2 damage on them. And I was counting what they had on board, and I played the lady, and I said, if he's got an Elsa, then I lose. So I played the lady knowing that would get me the win. And he played an Elsa, and I don't know why, but I just scooped. I was like, okay, the game's over. And then I was counting afterwards, and I realized that in order to take out my lady, he needed to send 2 of his characters, which would have only gotten him to 19 if he quested out with everything else. And my top deck was a Go-Go, which would have won me the game. So it's important sometimes to, even though you might be a little frustrated with how your deck's coming out, to just hold out and wait. I could have had that game 3 or 4 times, but I was stuck with big lady, Sven in hand, and I was at 3 ink, and I really wanted to play Sven to ready my character. So I could have inked Sven earlier and then played the big lady, but I inked Sven on turn 4 when I drew into a third big lady, and I knew that the game was just over. But it's important to remember that you need to keep a level head, think about your outs, play to those outs, and win. Because I knew that my outs was Robin Hood. I mean, Robin Hood wouldn't really have gotten me across the line, but Robin Hood, a go-go, and I knew that I hadn't seen a go-go, so I should have waited to see what his play was, to see if he was going to get to 20, because sometimes your opponent might be able to get to 20 and not think about it. So it's important just to think and just know that going forward. And then moving into my final 2 matches, I did lose to a very good blow-up player. Had four of Into the Unknowns and had about 3 of them in his hand both games. So I probably turned sideways when I shouldn't have, but it's unfortunate. But that is how the game goes. And then I lost to a Green Steel, which I do think Green Steel is probably one of our worst matchups. It is a very strong deck. Calhoun is an issue for this deck, so that is something to look out for. But overall, I think this deck performed very effectively and efficiently. I would have loved to have finished higher, but I think that overall this deck is probably one of the best, if not the best deck in the format, as it can handle most of the decks that are being played right now. I wanted to discuss possibly some changes that I would have made going into this tournament. I think I probably would have cut Sven and added another Robin Hood, as I literally inked Sven every round. Don't think I ever played a Sven to ready a character. I think I played a Sven to ready a character once, and it was in a loss that I knew I was losing. I think Fred is great. I didn't use him as much as I would have liked to, just because of the amount of fire of the cannons that was going around that day, and I didn't want to risk playing a 1-drop that just gets eaten by another 1-drop. So, but other than that, I think that the deck itself is great and super powerful. I think moving forward, this deck will probably turn more into a Circle of Life control deck, with the new Big Mickey and some other big characters that you get down with Circle of Life, maybe even Prince Philip using that board wipe ability with the 3-drop song. But other than that, I think that this deck's great. If you're a beginner, this might be a bit of a difficult deck to pick up. I know people say aggro decks are easy to play, but it is a very, very high skill deck to play, and as you can see by the amount of high skill players that were on it that qualified for day 2. Overall, I think it's a great deck. I was very happy with how my deck performed. I don't think that I would have changed a thing. I was very pleased with my tournament run, and yeah, overall, it was a great DLC. Very, very, very fun event, and great to see everyone from the community. So yeah, if you're thinking about playing a deck to an event between now and rotation, I would say give this one a punt. It's a great deck to play. It's a fun deck to play. It can handle all the meta decks. Learn your lines into Purple Steel, and you'll have success with this deck. But anyway, guys, I appreciate everything, and I will catch you guys later.